Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our winter quarterly meeting. We've got a really great turnout today and a great presentation lined up. I'm Wade Johnston. I'm the Director of Tri-State Trails at Green Umbrella. I'm going to hand it over to Bob Yoder, who is our outgoing Executive Committee Chair. Bob, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Wade. Yes. I'm looking forward to having served as chair of Tri-State Trails for the past 2 years, working with Wade, probably close to 4 years now. Really have enjoyed it. Everybody I've met and the things we've accomplished. I mean, where we are at with trails in this community, with the Crown, and just raising awareness. And even our bicycle safety commercial that you in Northern Kentucky saw, I don't think it made it across the river to Ohio, which I was one of the stars, I'll say that. It's been a great 2 years, and anyone who's ever served as a board chair also looks forward to being board chair emeritus, and I will take that title with pride. I'd really like to introduce our new board chair, someone, well, you've all seen, if you're at this meeting, he is featured in the Facebook photograph for this meeting. But a good friend of mine, someone who I've really gotten to know very well, working on the board. And, you may know him as the executive director of Groundworks OVR, a great environmental nonprofit that works with our youth and teaching job skills and environmentalism. And I'm not just a believer of the program. At the city of Dayton, we've engaged with them in our Sergeant Park project. So I'm handing it off to a person who I believe is far more capable than me, and at least younger and has more energy. So I'd like to introduce you to Tanner. Yes, a good friend of mine.
Thank you, Bob. Excellent. And as a Dayton resident, I enjoy working with you in that capacity as well. So hello, everyone. Again, my name is Tanner. Yes, many of you know me, and I'm lucky to know many of you. I want to take a second to introduce myself, but first recognize Jennifer and Becky, who are also stepping up as part of the leadership committee of Tri-State Trails. Thank you both. I'm so excited to serve with you. So as Bob mentioned, my day job is the co-executive director of Groundwork Ohio River Valley. We are the only environmental nonprofit in the region with leadership of color at all levels of staff and board. Our work centers on where justice and the environment meet. From green jobs, recreation, education, we inject principles of diversity, inclusion, and accessibility and equity into those efforts. I'm so passionate about trail work because as an avid user and bike commuter, I know what it's like not to feel welcomed on our trails and in our public spaces. And I'm very happy to be part of changing that narrative. So in many ways, we're coming full circle here for me and Wade. When I came to Cincinnati, I had a tough time kind of breaking into the scene. It was homogeneous and I didn't know where to start. But like so many others, I was warmly brought in by one Brewster Rhodes. Since then, I've helped to co-author Cincinnati Connects, which was the predecessor to Crown. I was even Rachel's teacher as a graduate student at UC. So coming on as president or chair kind of closes the loop and gives me and Wade an amazing working relationship and a great place to start. So Bob, I could make an old white guy joke at your expense, and maybe I just did. But the truth is that many of you here, especially Bob, are friends and mentors to me. And as Jennifer and Becky and I usher in a more diverse era of leadership for TST, we're doing it together with you. If there's anything I've learned growing up in a multiracial household, as a Peace Corps volunteer, or working very closely with communities around our tri-state, we don't succeed without cross-generational, cultural, racial, social exchange and collaboration. If you thought that Tri-State Trails was focused on equity before, we're about to turn up. And we're doing it with a true friend of mine, someone who's authentic, driven, inspirational, and that's Wade, and you all know him. And I couldn't be more excited to work side by side with him and grow Tri-State Trails with Wade. The pride I have being as one of the first people to start Tri-State Trails and now serving as a president extends to everyone here. I'm honored to work with you for the benefit of our communities and our infrastructure and our trails, and especially for those who are not yet in the room. So let's start this off today. I'm going to pass it on to Rachel Culley, who's going to begin with a presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tanner. Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to give a quick overview of the COVID impact on trail usage this year. This is the fourth year of our trail monitoring program. Every year we do a series of counts. We do a series of long-term duration counts, which are 365-day counts, and we do even more 7-day duration counts throughout May and November. And in the past year, we did 14 365-day counts and 125 7-day duration counts, all to gather data on trail usage throughout the year and to see how trail usage changes from year to year. And from 2019 to 2020, we actually saw from our initial analysis a 36% increase in trail usage. So going through here, we're just going to highlight some of the long-term counts that we did as Tri-State Trails. We work with Great Parks as well as the Miami Conservancy District to collect data. But this is, we do a count on the Dearborn Trail in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And as you can see here, we had a 65% increase on the Dearborn Trail in the past year. The red line here is 2020 and the blue line is 2019. This is from the Great Miami River Trail count that we do. We saw a 51% increase from last year. And just to mention, this is raw data, so there's some discrepancies within the data. And as we work more on this, we'll be able to get kind of a better picture of what actually occurred. This is from the Little Miami Scenic Trail in Loveland. We saw a 42% increase last year. And something that you may notice is that around May and June, we really started to see an increase in at each location. One of the places that we didn't see an increase was at the Purple People Bridge. And one of the reasons for that is probably the fact that people were starting to use more trails like this, the Little Miami Scenic Trail, longer duration trails, and also people weren't using the Purple People Bridge to commute to work. So we think that that might be a reason for the slight drop in usage in that. And then overall, as you can see, like I said, we saw a 36% increase across the board. The next steps for this are to extrapolate the 7-day counts into 365-day estimates for all of the locations that we went to. This will help generate average annual daily trail traffic as well as trail miles traveled for 2020. We take into account things like weather, whether it was, what time of day it was, whether it's the weekend or a weekday, and we'll be able to be able to better paint a picture of really the increasing usage that we saw last year. So this is really exciting to see that people were using the trails last year as a way to kind of escape everything that was going on, to recreate and to spend some more time outside. So we're looking forward to see what else the data shows. And we also wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Chen from the University of Cincinnati, who helped us with this trail usage analysis. She did so much work for us in the past few weeks. So thank you so much. And now we're gonna move on to some exciting developing trail and bikeway projects. So just give me a minute here to set that up.
Thanks, Rachel. And I'm kind of going to MC and take us through this again. And as you may be able to see, we're going to start with Boone County. So Daniel Menetrey, if you're prepped and the slides look good, please take it away.
All right, thank you. Glad to be here. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. My name is Daniel Menetrey. I'm the Capital Projects Manager at Boone County. And I'm just going to go a few slides of our trail developments. So next slide. So this is a map of our proposed bicycle trail system. You can see the red lines are the proposed bike trails in the county. The green are the existing, and the yellow is kind of our bicycle lanes. So you can see we got quite a bit going on. You see a lot kind of in the northeast portion of the county, centered around CVG. And that's going to be our proposed CVG loop trail, which we're really excited about. It'll be a 13-mile loop around the Cincinnati International Airport, and kind of like the Lunken Airport Trail, which is about a 5-mile trail around Lunken Airport. This will be about a 13-mile trail. So this will be a nice day out on the trail when we get this all completed. So we have one portion completed, and I'll show you, we got 3 in design right now. So next slide. I'll go through a few trails. This one was done by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, just completed last fall. It's our Kentucky 536 Mount Zion Road widening project, and included 2.5 miles of 10-foot wide asphalt multi-use path from Old Union Road on the west to I-75 on the east. And these paths are on both sides of the road, so that makes it a really nice connection for all the communities there. Next slide. This is the new Graves Road interchange at I-275 out by the Amazon warehouse developments and residential developments. Right now, only a half a mile of the path is completed, but you can see on the map on the left, it's going to be extended quite a bit, be about 2 miles in total length. And this is a picture from the interchange itself. It's a new double crossover diamond interchange. It's a new design that will help manage the traffic flow very effectively. And you can see that this is where the multi-use path goes down the center of the roadway and then crosses over to the other sides of the road. So this is really exciting new interchange here. Next slide. Veterans Way, we just completed this in late 2019 actually, and it's about a mile of multi-use path. Goes from Darlington Road on the west side and connects over to 237 on the east, and connects 2 elementary schools, Stevens Elementary, Immaculate Heart of Mary, and a church, a YMCA, a park, and a residential development. So this was a really exciting trail development that we completed. All right, next slide. And we got some new sidewalks that are under construction right now, Lytton Lane and Shoreland Drive. Almost just under a mile in length for each one. These are industrial parks, both of these locations, which are not really thought about as a need for sidewalks, but we do get a lot of people that walk to work in these industrial parks. They'll walk from bus lines, bus stops, and then they'll walk to their jobs. So we saw a lot of need for sidewalks in our industrial parks. So we're pleased to provide those for the workers. The Lytton Lane we just completed actually last fall, and the Shoreland Drive is under construction right now, will be completed later this summer. So next slide. And we got more bicycle trails and sidewalk projects coming. You can see we have 10.5 miles of multi-use paths planned or in design, in construction or in design right now that can be completed by the end of 2023. And also a couple new sidewalk projects that are in construction or will be soon, about 1.2 miles. So lots of exciting stuff happening in Boone County. So, and that's all we have. So thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. We're going to go to the ever popular city of Dayton again with Bob Yoder and talking about Riverfront Commons.
Thank you, Wade. Thank you, Tanner. Yes, South Bank Trail Towns. I want to update what's going on with South Bank Trails. I work a lot with South Bank partners. So next slide. But just to give an idea, I don't think people understand how many trails there are in the 6 South Bank cities. And I'll just go over them: Ludlow, Covington, Newport, Bellevue, Dayton, Fort Thomas, and now Silver Grove. So we actually have the start of the American Discovery Trail, cross-country hiking trail that has 7 miles in Kentucky from essentially the Roebling to the ferry, Anderson Ferry. I joke it's the leg of the American Discovery Trail you can hike in a day. Riverfront Commons we'll be talking about. The Licking River Greenway and Blueway. Devou Park Trails, Fort Thomas Trails. 4 Mile Creek Trail in Silver Grove. Probably many of you don't know about that. The Pearl People Bridge, probably the most popular trail in the region and Kentucky. Red Bike, and I want to also include Dayton, Covington, Newport have a lot of urban sidewalk hikes in there also. The River Walk, one of the first trails along the river. Sargent Park Trails, and one of my favorite projects right now, the 6th Street Bike Trails in Newport. So next slide. So this is a great project, one that I know Newport has been envisioning for at least 15 years. It would be a connection from the Taylor Southgate Bridge to the River Walk and Riverfront Commons in Newport and the Levee. And this has been a long time in the process to do these 2 pedestrian bridges. One in the east that connects from the Taylor Southgate Bridge over to Newport and the Levee. And you can go down to the trails of Newport and the Levee. And one that connects on the west side to the Riverwalk, Riverfront Commons, and the new Ovation development that's happening. And if some of you have been watching the construction of the concert venue, you may have seen a couple weeks ago, even though Ovation isn't in there, they put the pedestrian bridge in first. That is really a change in the way development is done around here, that we were thinking about pedestrians at the beginning of the project. I think that's good. So the next slide. Covington, I know, has been working on how to revitalize and re-energize their riverfront for 15 years now. And we're finally in the moving dirt, pouring of concrete phases. These are from last fall and summer. A lot further along, should be open this spring and summer. And so Covington, with their flood wall and their murals, are going to have a great riverfront, vital, important leg for Riverfront Commons. And I think it's something this summer, people are going to look and go, wow, when did that come in? So I think this is a great project, and really kudos to the city of Covington, because I know how long we've been working on this project in all the stages. So access to riverfront recreation, trails, connection to the Roebling, connection to downtown. This is I think one of the most exciting projects going on in Northern Kentucky right now. Next slide. All right, this is for Dayton, Kentucky. This is a leg of the Riverfront Commons Trail. We call this Aaron's Way. Starts at the end of O'Fallon. We'll go all the way in front of the flood wall, in front of Manhattan Drive, connecting over to Kentucky 8. We finished the first leg in 2019. We're wrapping up a couple little right-of-way issues on the second phase, which we hope to get started this year. And the third phase has been funded. So we have all the funding in place, almost all the design in place. So we're looking at, got our first leg done in 2019. In 2021, we'll be starting and working on our second phase. And this will be a really nice 10-foot wide concrete trail along the riverfront. I think I wanted to point out just the way it's worked out here. It is probably one of the more natural riverscape environments you can get into. As you walk in this trail, at one point you have the urban areas of Dayton, Kentucky. You're on the other side of the levee along the riverfront, and boom, I mean, you're right into a nature area. It's very peaceful. And we're also working, since somebody mentioned Brewster Roads, in putting canoe and kayak put-ins along this trail. So we'll be moving along with that in the next few years. So hopefully not only are we talking about Riverfront Commons as a bicycle pedestrian trail, but also a blueway. So next slide. Okay, this is one of my favorites. It's down by me. This is the 6th Street bike trails. It's kind of a pump track. Zach Newman, some of you may know him, lives in Bellevue between Newport and Dayton, great guy. This is underneath I-471 next to the library. It's a piece of publicly owned property that really has no use. And Zach and his volunteers and Newport Police Department brought a lot of dirt and got it put there, and they've groomed it and moved the earth and made a pump track that has a roof on top. And you see kids down there all the time. It's everyone from adults to little kids doing it. I think it's a great thing, and it's a great way for us to think about where are these public pieces of property that are underutilized and nobody's using. Newport has done a great job over the past 10 plus years. Further down, the skaters may know the do-it-yourself skate park. That's in Newport behind the high school. It's underneath the same underpass. So that has been done, and that's mainly volunteer driven. And what we like about that, and I like about it, is when you have the kids and the fans create this, they make sure behavior is appropriate, things stay clean, they know it's special, they know they have ownership. I think it's a big thing about our trails, that we need to make people think that, you know, they have ownership of them. And the efforts that they do in grooming the trails and marking them up are wonderful. So as far as I know, there really is no state grant funding for this. This is all dumping of dirt, volunteer labor, raising funds. I think it's great. It's a great way, a great model, I think, that other communities can look at how to develop recreational facilities. Because you know what? It's all, everybody's dealing with tight budgets. Next slide. This is another, this is one that I'm working with Tanner on. This is Sargent Park. When I started at Dayton, there's this strange 20 acres of woodlands in the city of Dayton between Bellevue and Fort Thomas. This is Sargent Park. In 1986, a Land Water Conservation Fund grant was used to cut in some trails and put a picnic pavilion. And over the years, it wasn't being used. We put fences around it. The city of Dayton closed it off. So 4 years ago when I started here, that was one of the things they tasked me, was how to reopen Sargent Park, and we've been working on this. It was all overgrown. There's huge amounts of honeysuckle there. Tanner can attest to that. So we've been working on raising funds and opening it up and utilizing any resource available. We had some volunteer works, cut some paths in there. Volunteers went and marked the trails. Last year, working with Tanner, we got a water quality grant via L'Oreal, and you can see down there, they're testing some of the water quality. And other points was to monitor and cut down invasive species. The community has really stepped up. We have a core community people there who are looking at opening up the trails. And right now, especially this year, it became very important to us as we had the lockdowns and people had to recreate, so that we opened up Sargent Park and opened up the trails. And usage has shot through the roof here. People love it. People are taking ownership. We're working right now in putting some gravel parking lots and trailheads. We've also last year got a recreational trails grant, which we're going to be putting out to bid here real soon, to groom the trails and putting some mountain bike trails on there. So what a couple years ago was a park that was disused and overgrown, through community efforts in writing grants, nonprofits like Groundworks OVR, we're really opening up, and it's a great facility, and I encourage you all to come take a look at it. Next slide. Okay, here's one. I think Tanner's the only one who's probably ever seen this. City of Silver Grove. About a year and a half ago, 9 acres along 4 Mile Creek were donated to the city of Silver Grove. And it's going to be used as conservation land. Silver Grove is challenged by flooding, challenged even more by rising flood insurance rates, and I work with them. And one of the things we can do if we set up conservation areas in flood zones and floodways, we get discounts for the community on flood insurance. So we have this 9 acres, and there were already some trails and agricultural road in here. So there's a network of trails along 4 Mile Creek from Owl Road along the creek. We're trying to look at extending it from Owl Road all the way to the county park, or basically 1998. So we're working on our first 9 acres here, which we're going to groom. And this is going to be an interesting trail in the region, in that it's not only going to be a walking, hiking, mountain bike trail, it's also a horse trail. And being in the rural area, I have to accept people with ATVs are out there. So we're looking at how to use this trail in such a way, if you can see the tracks of ATVs. We've come to the decision, we don't have the ability to stop people from using ATVs, but we can work on this trail and allow ATVs a path so they can recreate on this trail, allow for horses, allow for hikers, allow for bikers. So really as multi-use as possible. We have access to 4 Mile Creek if you want to do a little fishing or something there. So this is going to be a really neat project. Currently, we're getting our property surveyed. You get out into the county, property lines and stuff like that get a little blurry. So we're getting it surveyed so we know where it's at. Starting in the spring, we'll be putting in a gateway, trailhead, and a little parking lot. And it's open now, but you kind of have to know where it is. And I would say this spring, it will be open for everybody. And I think it's going to be an entertaining project. So these are some of the things going on in the South Bank cities. A couple other things to mention. We're doing a big project with the Army Corps of Engineers. As we get Riverfront Commons done, the Army Corps of Engineers is going to do a riverfront restoration in the cities of Ludlow, Covington, Newport, Bellevue, and Dayton to clear that up all along the Ohio River and up the Licking. So the Army Corps does not build trails, but they build access to their land, which is a trail. But okay, but you know, so that's there. So they don't build trails. So some of the grooming the cities would have to take care of themselves, but it's really going to do work a lot in putting more trails through there, especially up the Licking, and it'll be good. So that's kind of what's going on with the South Bank cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks to you and Jack for all that amazing work out of Riverfront Commons. So I believe that Mr. Sam Perry from the city of Oxford is going to share his screen here talking about the Oxford Bikeway. And Sam, whenever you get up and running, 3 minutes, go.
All right, good morning, everybody. Sam Perry, City of Oxford, Northwestern Butler County. So I hope you can see my slide there. And yeah, so I'll go to my next slide. So this is the black covered bridge, kind of our featured location for our trail where we got started. And we have a goal of 12 miles in 10 years, and we've got 2.5 done, and we've got 4.2 in design. Right now, we've been using Becker Engineers Environmental Design Group, and originally KZF Design originally started as a grassroots organization that came into the city leadership about 6 years ago. I got a lot of help from Bike Miami Valley and Tri-State Trails, so definitely shout out to those two organizations. Just to help us kind of push through some of the political pushback. Oxford is an old town, an old college town, and you know, having the grid, if you will, of an old college town with the historic kind of layout makes it difficult. So the community decided to do a circumnavigating trail around the periphery of the community, and this is something that has worked well from a recreational and hopefully will be a transportation element as well, kind of working its way into the community, connecting schools, parks, historic features. We don't have a natural abandoned railroad track or a river to use, so this is the choice that the community made. So this is a shot of the Miami connector that's been recently constructed and opened up just a few months ago, and has just beautiful scenic passageways. This one actually went through where there was a sanitary sewer easement. So we're able to utilize that infrastructure to get a cut through a wooded area. And this is a shot showing on the left the current condition, and on the right what our planned node is going to be on a phase that will be constructed and complete in 2023 on the southeast side of the community. And so we've been using Clean Ohio, STBG. We did pass a levy in 2017, which has helped to do local match and really push us forward. So a lot of great progress. So thanks for letting me give you all an update.
Thank you, Sam. We will quickly go to Tony Carpenter from MetroParks of Butler County.
All right, thank you, Tanner. Good morning, everybody. Just a few updates, kind of in the Butler County area, mostly about the Great Miami River Trail. The first one is the gap between Middletown and Franklin, the northern side of the county. This gap's actually really important. You can go to the next slide if you'd like. It's about 1.5 miles. It's currently under construction. So we anticipate that being open in 2021. That will actually connect then basically Trenton all the way up through Franklin, through Dayton, all the way to Piqua. So about 54 miles of trail there. The next extension that MetroParks is working on is the Timber Hill extension. It's about 0.7 of a mile. It comes out of Rentschler Forest, connects another Metro Park. Should be completed in 2022. We're going to start construction in summer of 21. The other piece is the city of Monroe is currently working on 2.5 mile section within their boundaries. That is expected to start construction in 2022. You can go to the next slide. MetroParks has partnered with Tri-State Trails and 10 other communities to do a GMRT action plan. This will give us the study, initial engineering, some cost estimates to be able to take some projects out to bid and really start to close the gaps on the Great Miami River Trail. The first section should be completed in June of this year, which is the Lemon Township gap. And that first map that I showed you, that would also extend then the trail system all the way to Piqua and fill another small gap there. And then south, City of Fairfield is working on in the planning stages to extend the GMRT south out of Fairfield. Go to the next slide. The other trail that we're working on is the Miami to Miami connection. Right now, Gilmore Metro Park, we have a 1.5 mile section that we're working with the city of Hamilton on. That should be under construction in 2022. You can go to the next slide also. So we'll start this year. We should finish construction in 2022. It's a partnership with MetroParks and the city of Hamilton. Westchester Township then is also working on 747 Smith Road, Beckett Road connection. Once that piece is complete, we will have about 8.5 miles from the city of Hamilton almost to I-75 when that's complete. So exciting stuff going on. So that's what I have for today. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Tony. Let's go out to the Hamilton Beltline with Alan Messer and the city of Hamilton.
Good morning. This is Alan Messer here with the City of Hamilton's Engineering Department to provide an update on the Hamilton Beltline Trail. Next slide, please. The Beltline's a 3-mile trail that winds through Hamilton's west side. It runs along an old railroad corridor that used to serve the Champion paper mill from the late 1890s through its closure here in the early 2000s. The paper mill is currently being repurposed into one of the nation's largest sports complexes with a 140 million or 144 million in private investment. It'll have a convention center, hotel, and medical facility connected to it, scheduled to open early next year and is expected to bring 1 million visitors per year to the city. In addition to the sports complex, Hamilton High School, Junior High, Fort Hamilton Hospital, several parks and businesses, as well as 11,000 residents are in very close proximity to the trail. So it will provide much needed bicycle and pedestrian access. We had to break it up into manageable phases because of the size of it. The first phase being the orange there, we started in the middle because at the time we got rolling, we didn't know exactly what things would look like down along the river with the sports complex. Each phase is anywhere between 3/4 and $1 million and a half to 2/3 miles in length. We have 3 phases currently funded, and then the 4th area in blue to the west there is 1.2 miles in length, and we're looking to schedule and seek grant money for that in the near future. Next slide, please. This couldn't have happened without the support of the grant agencies listed here and Nick Garukas with the city, who had spent a ton of time seeking these grants. The acquisition phase of the project was actually the biggest challenge, acquiring property from the railroad. Overall acquisition cost about $925,000, of which we had $719,000 paid for through grants. Phase 1 is approximately $755,000, and we had about $560,000 covered by grants. Phase 2 is in the neighborhood of $900,000, and we have a state capital grant. That's actually incorrect. We have $750,000 from a state capital grant on that phase of the project. And then phase 3, we recently received a transportation alternatives grant from OKI. So all total, we've got about $2.75 million in grant money towards the $3.6 million that it's going to take to build the first 3 phases of the project. Next slide, please. So here's where we are today. Phase 1 began construction November. Due to the mild weather we've had so far this winter, it's progressing well. It involves a 120-foot bridge over 2 Mile Creek, the tree clearing and beginning of the abutments. You can see the abutment construction there is well underway. The bridge has been ordered and is expected this spring. The project is scheduled to be completed next fall, but right now it looks like it may finish ahead of schedule and open here this summer. Phase 2 is currently underway. Design is underway in-house, and then phase 3, we expect to begin design this spring. With that, I want to thank you, and this is an exciting project for the city and for the region, and one that we look forward to making use of in the near future. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
Thanks, Alan. Off to everyone's favorite Indiana Trail with Terry Duffy, one of the founding fathers of Tri-State Trails and the Whitewater Canal Trail.
It's great to be here with a big crowd this morning. It looks like everybody's still got some interest in trails. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure of visiting the Whitewater Canal Trail, we're the blue star there on that map, about, depending on where you're coming from, about an hour from downtown Cincinnati. Brookville, Metamora, Laurel, that area of Franklin County, Indiana.
I'm not hearing
Next.
this.
You have your. Am I not being heard?
We can hear you. I muted that person.
Oh, okay. The next slide, Rachel. So for those who might have visited with us on the Tri-State Trails regional mobile meeting a couple of years ago, that muddy path that we walked that day now looks like this. The trail's completed. We've got the amenities set in. It's just a great walk in the country. We're just very pleased with how it's turning out. We've been working on this project for nearly 20 years now. We plug away at it as best we can. Rachel, if you give me the next slide, please. We have access to a corridor that is the old canal corridor for the Whitewater Canal. State owns a good bit of it. There's some private property along the way. And we have enough control of the corridor that we can sort of build trail as fast as we're able to raise money. And that's been pretty slow over the last few years, but we plug away. We have a core of volunteers who usually manage to find something to do. We have some skilled, dedicated people. We get an awful lot of our work done in-house, and we work very, very inexpensively. But in terms of the prospects for things coming up, if we can have the next slide. I have a story. About 3 years ago, the Canal Trail president got a phone call from a visitor to the Canal Trail, and he was from out of town, and he said that he and his wife had had a wonderful time visiting the Canal Trail, and said that at some point they might want to make a donation to the trail, and he was wondering how that could be done. And so Mick explained it all to him, and then nothing happened. And then, 3 years went by, and then early in December of 2020, Mick gets another phone call, and this guy wants to make a donation. And
Is Terry frozen for everyone, or is that just me?
Terry is freeze.
in some fashion or other, and we are planning to have those completed this year. That means that we will have an 11-mile section that goes from Yellowbank up to the Laurel Feeder Dam, ready to go, we hope, this year. So we're hoping to invite everybody out for a grand opening ceremony in like October of this year. So just mark it on your calendar, and you can come see one really spectacular trail. Thanks. That's what I've got for today.
Thanks, Terry. You guys are such an inspiration, man. Let's go to Scott Brunka with the City of Lebanon.
Good morning, everybody. Appreciate you having us here. I'm here with Casey Burdick, our Parks and Natural Resource Coordinator. If you could go to the next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about a protected bike lane project that Lebanon was able to accomplish through a road diet. And just to give you a little bit of detail, so Lebanon has an existing 8-mile Lebanon Countryside YMCA trail. It currently connects our downtown to the Little Miami Scenic Trail, very popular trail here in Lebanon and regionally. Went through a planning process, and obviously there was a recommendation to extend where the trail ends right now in our downtown, to extend that north to connect additional neighborhoods in the city as well as schools, so we can kind of all get connected. We also had a private developer who was looking at a 16 million mixed-use development along this proposed north-south corridor, and one of his requirements was direct access to trails. So certainly the development community values trails. So we went out and we went after and were awarded an ODNR Trail Fund grant to extend the trail 2.4 miles from our downtown north up to Miller Road, which is also where our junior high school is located. A portion of the trail is a separate 10-foot wide paved path, but a significant portion included doing a road diet on North Broadway Avenue, which is also State Route 48, to accommodate a protected bike lane. We can go to the next slide. So this is a map that kind of gives you an overall view of the project. The trail alignment shown in red, that's our existing trail. And then you can see portions of it are kind of shared use, and then it connects to where the solid orange line is. That's a 10-foot wide separate paved trail that will be constructed. And then the dashed line that heads north-south up North Broadway Avenue, that is all a protected bike lane that we are accommodating through a road diet. And we were able to complete a portion of this already this past summer in conjunction with the private development project that's going on. So a portion of it is done. We actually just awarded or opened bids yesterday for the remaining construction contract, which will complete it this summer. Next slide, please. So I think as we looked at, how to cost effectively get this trail extended to serve the greatest number of people possible, we quickly identified the potential for North Broadway Avenue to, use that corridor as part of a road diet to convert the existing 4-lane road into a 3-lane road. So the first thing we did is we did conduct a traffic impact study. We wanted to make sure we could communicate to the public that the level of service impact would be negligible. And that study did in fact determine that. There was also a desire, especially in front of this new mixed-use residential development to calm traffic. When you have 4 lanes with really kind of minimal traffic volumes, folks tend to speed, and we were seeing a lot of that. So we felt like this was another positive aspect of the road diet, was to calm traffic on North Broadway. And I know we communicated this quite a bit. We did our homework looking at the Federal Highway Administration and some of their experiences converting 4 lanes down to 3 lanes, and some of the statistics. Overall crash reduction on these roads between 19 to 47%. Significant reduction of rear end and left turn accidents. And then obviously you have fewer lanes for pedestrians to cross with a 3-lane road versus the 4-lane. So we really determined this was a cost-effective way to kind of get our trail constructed, and it was also perceived as a much safer alternate. Next slide, please. So this is a couple photos of what North Broadway looked like before we did the road diet. And honestly, the number of vehicles you see is pretty representative. It's just not a high traffic corridor, but it was 4 lanes wide. So a lot of asphalt there that we had to maintain that we didn't really need. Next slide, please. Yeah, we'll see. We have a drone video. We'll see if it works or not. It may not.
Did you have it up and want to share it? I don't think I'll be able to share it through mine here.
Let's see if I can pull it up here.
Okay.
Do it share. Down here on the right side.
Here we go. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like. Again, these are some on the ground photos as well. We did install the delineators all the way along for protection. A couple of things we learned that I wanted to highlight. First of all, extensive communication with the public prior to construction is key. We really talked a lot about why we were doing it. Trails, when we talk to the community about what type of recreational facilities they want to see. Trails are always at the top of that list. This was tied to economic impact and economic development, with it being a component of the proposed development. We stressed improved roadway safety as well as the traffic calming, and we really made sure they understood that we did do a traffic study on this, and the engineering department had determined that this was not going to negatively impact vehicular travel. We use newsletters, public meetings to get the word out. I will tell you that there is a percentage of the population that's going to resist it. They will be convinced that there's no way that vehicles will still be able to move smoothly, or that this is a good idea. We just tried to get the word out to the rest of the community and kind of drive forward. After we implemented it, we did, those first few days it's changed. So people had to get used to that center left turn lane, dedicated left turn lanes. So you certainly are going to get some negative social media post complaints. I will say after the first week, nobody complained. It was really just something that once people got used to it, it's not a problem at all. They've generally accepted it, and it's had no negative impact on traffic flow getting through Lebanon. So I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Let's go out to Mark Jeffries with Clifton Town Meeting.
Awesome. Perfect segue. I love how you do these back to back. So I'm with Clifton Town Meeting, which is a neighborhood association. So I'm a private citizen, working, not working for the city. So this is about bike lanes that we're working on in Clifton. So if you go to the next slide. So the background on this, you can read it. So there are currently no protected bike lanes in Clifton, right? So with the pandemic, we saw, as everybody here knows, a surge in temporary bike lanes all over the world, right? So we proposed something similar along Clifton Avenue, so connecting UC to Ludlow, for those of you guys familiar with it, to the Clifton Town Meeting. I'm a trustee on Clifton Town Meeting. That's our neighborhood association. So this was back in September. It passed unanimously, which very rarely anything passes unanimously in Clifton Town Meeting. Second, we went to, in September, October, we went to the other neighborhood association impacted by this, which is by the UC side. Got their support, University of Cincinnati, Cincinnati Parks, People Union University, and Tri-Health. So those are the other stakeholders who could be impacted with this. And then in October, we went to City Council, to a City Council member, and had them file a motion in support of this. And so we are, just as a top level, moving towards implementing this in mid-March as a temporary bike lane. If you go to the next slide. Share a little bit more details around this. So a little hard to see. So I put in white the one area first that I'll talk about, then I'm going to make reference to a road diet and protected bike lane that we're also doing. So the one in the middle to the right, that is the Clifton Avenue. So it's a mile-long stretch connecting UC, hence the logo of UC, to Skyline. Very familiar, iconic Skyline in Clifton. So I jokingly say that way all the UC kids can bike over to Skyline and bike home. So that's the first one. And then the one on the left, I will make reference here in the end, is the road diet and protected bike lane that we're also implementing, and that will connect to the north side. And you see that kind of logo there. So the master vision is, hey, you have this north side, which also connects to the Mill Creek, etc. And then that also all connects, to UC. So that's the bigger vision. So go to the next slide. So similar to the prior, I thought, some key learning here from a different perspective, because we're, a private neighborhood association working with the city. So, the things that we've learned first, the sequencing of building community support for this really matters, right? So starting with a conversation with the Department of Transportation and Engineering to understanding options. Once we had those, then presenting them to the neighborhood association to informally get input, right? This is about feeling out key stakeholders, making sure there's no major objections and making them feel part of the process. And then presenting it to the neighborhood association for formal approval of the resolution. And then formally asking the key stakeholders for their input, and then going to City Council in this case. So that's the sequence we went through, and I mention that because I think in this case, how the decision is made is almost as important as what's decided. I think it also gets to the community feeling, to the previous conversation about social media comments, the community feeling as if they're a part of this decision. So, ultimately, I think it's helped us enable better ideas and also design for watchouts. And we can talk about actually the benefit of temporary too, is we can also adjust, right? So once we make it permanent, we say, oh, that intersection didn't work or did. And then ultimately, I think it makes the decision stronger. So if you go to the next slide. I wasn't here to talk about the road diet, but wanted to, a lot of detail here. You guys can look at it separately, but we too did a road diet along Ludlow Avenue, connecting north side into the downtown business district. Similar process, flyers, media, etc. If you look here on the right-hand side, we are going to reduce the lane by 1. And put in a protected bike lane there, and protected truly by little median and whatever. So we are working through that now. Unfortunately, just found out that ODOT has 0 funding next year. We were going to submit this in April, 0 for safety improvement. So we are working through whether there's both federal funding or others, or if we just do a temporary bike lane on this one in the interims to build community momentum. So that's all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mark. Let's move to the man, the myth, the legend, Doug McClintock with Cincinnati's Off-Road Alliance. And for the remaining presenters, please keep in mind we are up against the clock. So do what you can to stay within time, please. Go ahead, Doug.
Tanner, that is too nice of an introduction. I would like to say that much like the esteemed Bob Yoder, I also have just recently added the emeritus tag to my president's title with Cora. I am leaving the organization in that capacity. Will still be serving on the board, but I'm still heading up some projects. Olivia Birkenauer, who I know is on this call, has taken over as our president. We're very excited to have her. She's been with the organization as long as I have, and really an awesome force. So you'll be hearing a lot more from her as the years roll on. Great to hear from so many people who we are involved with as partners. There's a lot going on with Cora. I'll touch some very top line stuff and then update you on the skills part. Next slide, please, Rachel. We have over 100 miles of trail that we steward throughout the community, throughout the greater Cincinnati area, working with numerous partners, whether it's City of Cincinnati, great parks, state parks, and really some state park stuff has been moving pretty significantly. We signed a memorandum of understanding with Cedar Creek this year and are working to establish a signage project with them that hopefully what we can do is implement that at additional state parks where we have assets, and really kind of cohesively address signage, because that's a big challenge when people are in the woods. It's a little different when you're on the roads and have street signs. We're trying to take care of our users in that specific place. Also, some opportunity at Caesars for some beginner expansions and hopefully some connections to some other trail amenities, including getting into places where we're touching people, getting them to the trails. East Fork, much similar in that space. There's some rehab and some opportunities potentially to take some existing trail and make it multi-use and not just hiking or not just equestrian. We're very cognizant of the user conflicts in that space, but are working with the park in those areas, and some linkages down the road as we look to the next several years to link up to actually where there are opportunities in the community to bring to paved trail, get people from their homes to the park. Mount Airy's trail construction has been exceptional. Excuse me. We have opened up phase 1 and phase 2, just right around 2 miles of trail. That's between the corridor of I-74 and West Fork Road. That section has opened up. It is doing amazing. We have opened up our construction on phase 3, which will add another 3 miles to the trail. So we will end up with about 5 miles in that area. If you haven't been out, it's a great place to hike. It is pretty weather resistant. Please do check the Cora website to see if the trail is open or not. This time of year can be tough with freeze-thaw conditions. We want to keep these trails in good condition as we move forward. The big thing I wanted to update you on is the Mount Airy Skills Park. So if we can move to the next slide, Rachel. So the Skills Park, temporarily at this point in time, where we're thinking of locating it is at Site 23 in Mount Airy Forest. If you were to enter the main entrance on the east side of the park, up on Coleraine Avenue and go basically to the back of the park, there's an unused area that is underutilized that the park has identified as a potential great opportunity. A skills park is basically a place for folks who do not have the requisite skills to ride natural surface trails or just ride a bike to learn how to ride a bike in a protected and safe location. Whether that's a kid or that's an adult, that remains to be seen, depends on who you are and what you're looking for. But if you want to take somebody new out to learn how to build the confidence and the skills, they need to have a safe place to do it. And these models of putting these sort of places in communities that are underserved and may not have bike infrastructure, we think is very important. We want to see diverse butts on bikes, not just butts on bikes. So we really want to try to find ways to locate these things in communities, and Mount Airy and the surrounding communities really could use this sort of thing. With us already building trail there, there's an obvious, easy situation to slowly bring someone in and escalate them into feeling comfortable on natural surface trails. So if you would go to the next slide, you can see what some of this project would look like. These are some photos from numerous bike skills parks and trail areas throughout the United States and the world. We really want to make this a place where beginners can become comfortable with riding on a feature, riding over rocks, going over small hills, doing those sort of things so that you can gain the confidence. We will put in a perimeter trail that is natural surface, and we are looking to put in a connector that will roll from the top of the hill down to our trails so that people can get between those two locations as they continue to progress. So next slide, I'll give you a little bit of our timeline. That is Lou. If you guys know Jason Reeser, that is Lou Dog. That is Jason Reeser's son. He is a shredder, and we are super excited to see him out on the trails. Jason's behind him, don't worry about him. So next slide. We are planning, God willing, and red tape hopefully finishes up, we will be able to announce the design agreement here in Q1 of 2021. That'll enter our design process with the selected contractor. At that point, they will work with parks and the community to really flesh out what is a concept right now and get us some actual design plans that'll involve community engagement with the parks department, and you know, Steve Shuckman and all the folks with Karakish and everybody there are really going to help us make sure we're nailing the design for the community, and so that it is long-term sustainable for the community, you know, and moving forward. Fundraising is ongoing. Jason Reeser, our trail development director, has done a bang-up job in a pandemic to raise a bunch of money. We're about a third of the way towards our goal. We're looking at additional funding sources. If you're interested in helping us with that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us or Jason Reeser. We'd love to get you or your community organization engaged in that space to help us make that happen. And we anticipate that construction will begin no later than 2022. The challenge that we have is that, you know, we're working within the city of Cincinnati infrastructure. And as we all know, working with the city government takes some time. So there are a lot of things to cross off here to make sure we're doing this. So this process is slow as always, but we're excited. This will be the first time we're able to really put this kind of an amenity in a city of Cincinnati park. And we think it builds a blueprint for local communities and other parks to do this. If you want to see something like this that lives on the ground, you can head on up to see Scott Brunka up in Lebanon. There are some pieces of what we're looking to do up in Lebanon that they built a couple years ago that are fantastic and give you kind of an idea of scale. That is a great place for you to mentally start if you need to see something locally, and I'm sure Scott would welcome you guys up there as long as trail conditions are acceptable. So that's the most important piece. So that's all for me.
That's great, Doug. Thank you so much. So excited to have Leslie here from the Metropolitan Sewer District. Leslie, talking about the Lick Run Greenway.
Thanks, Tanner. Good morning, everyone. As Tanner said, I'm Leslie Schehl, and I'm a supervising engineer at the Metropolitan Sewer District of Greater Cincinnati. And I'm going to give you a short update on the Lick Run Greenway. So next slide. As a part of a federal consent decree, MSD embarked on a very large stormwater management and combined sewer overflow reduction project in the Lick Run watershed called the Lick Run Project. The Lick Run project is actually a suite of 12 projects in the Lick Run watershed, which all in total will remove about 500 million gallons of stormwater from our sewer system in a typical year. These projects have constructed new storm sewers and green infrastructure features that collect and carry stormwater from throughout the watershed to the Mill Creek. This in turn will reduce sewer overflows into the Mill Creek and improve water quality and reduce the amount of water treated at our Mill Creek treatment plant. So next slide. The last and largest project to be completed of those projects I just mentioned is the Lick Run Greenway. That's what we're most interested in right now. The Lick Run Greenway is centered in the South Fairmount neighborhood of Cincinnati's east side. The Lick Run Greenway began as a concept over 10 years ago and broke ground for construction in 2017. The Greenway extends for about 1.5 miles from Old Queen City Avenue at the Queen City Bypass all the way to the Mill Creek. The highlight of the project is an over 1 mile daylighted stream from Quebec Road to a 1.8 acre pond between Harrison and State Avenues. The stream will flow under 5 vehicular bridges and 1 pedestrian bridge next to an extended city park. Throughout the Greenway, MSD has added lighting and streetscape improvements, including stormwater planters along Queen City Avenue and lots of plantings, including over 750 trees. And meandering through the Greenway is nearly 2 miles of sidewalks and multi-use pathways. So you can go to the next slide. On this slide, you can see 2 different maps. The map on the top will show all the improved sidewalks in purple, so mostly surrounding the Greenway. And then the multi-use pathways that are internal are in the magenta. The multi-use pathways that are internal to the project are 10 feet wide and for bicycle or pedestrian use. And the sidewalks surrounding are 6 feet wide. Throughout the Greenway, whether you're walking or you're biking, you can stop at points of interest and learn about the project and the neighborhood that surrounds it. And that is the bottom map there. It's kind of blurry, but the purple dots are different points of interest that show signage and tell different stories. You can go to the next slide. My update is very, very quick. But if you like more information about our Greenway or just project updates, you can email us at msd.communications@cincinnati-oh.gov and we can add you to an email list. The project itself is slated to open to the public this spring. So in the next couple months, it's actually quite open right now. It's not an active construction site, but there still are construction machines around. But the pathways are all completed and you can walk the entirety of the project right now. Thanks, Tanner.
Leslie is the best and stayed on time the best out of anyone so far. Thank you, Leslie. Appropriately from Lick Run, let's move to the Mill Creek Greenway Trail where I got my start. It is so close to my heart, this work with Chris Carr and the Mill Creek Alliance.
Yeah, hi, thanks guys. Chris Carr again, board member of the Mill Creek Alliance. Thank you, Wade, Rachel, Tanner, for the opportunity to update the group on the Mill Creek Greenway Trail. This map shows 2 of our existing sections of the trail, solid lines, and 2 proposed sections, the dashed lines, one in the middle and one in the bottom. More about them later. As with all you guys, COVID affected our programs at the Alliance. So it prompted us to try something a little different with our public canoe trips on the Mill Creek. We've been doing these for years. And what we said, you know what, we just cannot shuttle back to the beginning after people paddle down the creek. We need to do something different. So we came up with pedal paddle loops. That is, you canoe or kayak down the Mill Creek, and then you pedal your bike or walk back on the Greenway Trail. We did this quite a few times from Salway or Mitchell down to Yellow Bridge. You can see them marked on the map there. Thank you, Rachel. For this coming year, 2021, we're planning on extending this pedal paddle stuff from Caldwell to Mitchell. So we'll have a bunch of different stuff. Next slide. Yeah, thanks. This is the access at Salway. This is like just a really ideal, just about perfect connection between the land trail, the Greenway Trail, and the water trail along the Mill Creek. Beautiful green space, parking, got just about everything you need. We want to create a series of these along the Mill Creek. Next slide. So one of the things we've also been working on this past year is making the connection from Solway in the upstream direction to the very popular Queen City Kroger shopping district, the Mitchell launch ramp, the yellow triangle, and then continuing on along the Mill Creek up to Spring Grove Avenue. So some really nice ways to connect North Side, Spring Grove Village, Avondale, Clifton into the system. Next slide. We're also starting work extending the trail south from what I call Yellow Bridge, South Cumminsville area down to the Lick Run area we just heard about. And we're really building on a lot of work that quite a few people on this call worked on. The Cincinnati Connects is our kind of foundation for this. So we're building on that. We want to add a loop at the north end around the sanitation garage area there and the Cincinnati Fire Training Center, and then head on south along the railroad right of way. And what's really cool with the new GIS data, you can see that, yeah, there's a lot of railroad property we need to deal with, but there's also some opportunities to use Mill Creek Valley Conservancy property, save some money. And you can see at the bottom there is the Lick Run area and the new proposed Western Hills Viaduct. Next slide. So in this zone, the new proposed Western Hills Viaduct is cutting across the center of the map there. The group designing that has a shared use path as part of their design. And there's just a tremendous opportunity to connect that shared use path into the Lick Run Greenway. You heard about from Leslie, other paths in the South Fairmont area, and of course, the Mill Creek Greenway Trail. So a consortium of groups are working to put together our thoughts. That's what all these circled dots are here with the numbers on how we might integrate with as part of the Western Hills Viaduct plan and also part of other plans going on. So that's our update. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. The Mill Creek is so important, as we all know, especially to the west side and opening up that part of our city. So let's go to the Ohio River Trail West. Such an important group of friends and mentors like Tom Croft, Mary Ann, and Greg Lang, who's going to present for us right now. Take it away, Greg.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Greg Lang, and I'm a member of the River West Group. River West is a neighborhood advocacy group whose mission is to promote recreational opportunities, transportation alternatives, and development along Greater Cincinnati's Western Riverfront to enhance the quality of life and economic vitality of our communities. Our main initiatives are Price Landing Park in Lower Price Hill and the Ohio River Trail West. The Ohio River Trail West is a proposed off-road, multi-use 26-mile trail connecting the downtown Cincinnati riverfront to Shawnee Lookout Park at the Indiana border. This trail will connect a series of parks and neighborhoods all along the Ohio River. It will also serve to connect downtown Cincinnati with several tri-state trails, including Lawrenceburg Trail, the Whitewater Trail, Great Miami Trail, and the Mill Creek Greenway Trail that Chris just talked about. Slide 2, please. Completed in 2019, Cincinnati Recreation Commission sponsored a half-mile multi-use trail in the Gilday Recreation Center, funded by an ODNR Clean Ohio Trail Fund grant. This trail runs along the river edge from one end of the park to the other. The Cincinnati Department of Transportation and Engineering sponsored a federal CMAQ grant for 2 sections of our trail, Phase 1A and Phase 1B. Next slide, Rachel, please. Section 1B is currently under construction and will be completed in the spring of this year. It is a 1.3 mile section connecting Gilday Trail in Riverside to Boldface Park in Sedansville. Next slide, please. Phase 1A of the Ohio River Trail West was completed last year in Lower Price Hill. This is just a 6/10 mile section of trail, but will serve to connect east across the Mill Creek to Schehl Park, north to the Mill Creek Greenway Trail, and west to our next section of the trail. Future plans for River West Group are in planning stages with the Department of Transportation and Engineering for Phase 1C that connects the existing trails at Boldface Park and Lower Price Hill to the Lower Price Hill Trail. This will be a difficult section indicated as this will be a difficult section indicated as the pinch point. We are looking at two options, one along the Central Indiana Railway and the other at a higher elevation along Galvin Road. Next slide, Rachel, please. For the final section to Paul Brown Stadium, we are proposing with ODOT and DOTE a 1.75 mile off-road trail using right-of-ways along Route 50 and Mering Way. This includes a cantilevered trail over the Mill Creek using the existing River Road Route 50 bridge. And back to one, please, if you could. And that's our trail. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Greg. Representing Great Parks of Hamilton County and the Tri-State Trails Executive Committee, Becky Osinski.
Thanks. I'm going to see if I can beat Leslie's time here because I'm at the end. Well, Great Parks has got a lot of stuff going on this year, but I'm just going to quickly highlight 3 of our biggest projects for the year. The first of which this year we're going to be wrapping up design on our Glenwood Gardens to Winton Woods Trail. It's a 3-mile paved trail that links the 2 parks together. It is an extension of the West Fork Mill Creek Greenway Trail that already connects down into Woodlawn in Wyoming. And then it's also part of this bigger vision of a triangle trail connecting a bunch of different communities up in kind of the northern suburbs of the county. Next slide. Number 2 that we're working on is we're going to start design on the phase 3 of the Columbia connector. So we wrapped up phases 1 and 2 last year. And if you're on the Little Miami Scenic Trail at Newtown Road, it's the spur that goes back behind 50 West Brewing. So phase 3 is to get it across the creek there and then up behind the businesses up to Route 50 and to Marymount Library. And ODOT is going to be funding the design for that. So we're really excited to start on that this fall and get that big section of trail kind of wrapped up. Next slide. The biggest and probably the most visible and most expensive piece that we're doing this year is the Beachmont Bridge connector, and groundbreaking on that's supposed to start really any day now. I think utilities are already out there moving stuff around, but that should start in the next couple weeks and last the next year and a half. And the goal is to get that completed in summer or fall of 2022. So what that includes is a bike pedestrian bridge over the river. You can skip to the next one. That is physically separated from the traffic on Beachmont Levee. It also includes a tunnel and a retaining wall underneath the 32 ramps to the levee. So really it's going to provide a very safe, you can go to the next one, experience for riders and commuters along the trail. So you can actually enjoy being adjacent to this scenic river instead of just fearing for your life on Beachmont. And if you jump to the next one, this section is just such a tiny piece of this big map, but it's really critical to connecting the trails and the communities on both sides of the Little Miami River. So we've got Little Miami Scenic Trail and all the neighborhoods on the east side of the river connecting with the Arm Leader and the Lunken Loops on the west side, and then ultimately into the Ohio River Trail into downtown Cincinnati. So we're really excited to move these 3 projects forward this year and also work with all the different organizations and agencies to kind of help make sure that we're setting the stage for future projects in years to come. Thanks.
Thank you, Becky. Wade is going to bring us home with some Crown updates.
Thanks, Tanner. Perfect segue, Becky. We even had the same map. So I hope you all are enjoying all these presentations. It's a great illustration of all the progress that's happening and has been years in the making, And Crown is a great example of that. Several of the previous presentations, Lick Run, Mill Creek, Ohio River Trail West, Great Parks, all of those projects fit into this big loop that we're trying to create, a 34-mile trail loop that will link up the Wasson Way, the Little Miami Scenic Trail, the Ohio River Trail, and the Mill Creek Greenway. And the big news on this, we've shared a couple times, is that we've got a fundraising partnership together with the Wasson Way nonprofit and the Ohio River Way nonprofit. And we are going to be doing a private fundraising campaign to build out the 1, 2, 3, and 4 numbers on the map there. So number 1 and 2 have already secured about $10 million in federal funding from OKI and some other funding from ODNR. And then the private funding that we're raising will match that. So those will be, we'll talk about those in a second. Number 3, Becky just touched on. And then number 4, with the Ohio River Trail, we're hoping to make some moves on that this year. So stay tuned for that. Next slide, please. We've put together a fun and engaging campaign called Crown the Queen that we think celebrates the moniker of the Queen City for Cincinnati and gets people excited about the possibility to reconnect our neighborhoods, create all kinds of economic development opportunities, and just make Cincinnati a more walkable, bikeable place that has a higher quality of life. Next slide. So the big development is the Wasson Way. Like I said, funding has been secured for the sections in red on the map here. And actually one of those sections was built last year. I'll talk about that in a second, from Madison to Marburg Avenue. And altogether, this is going to create about a 5.5-mile corridor extending from uptown at the intersection of Martin Luther King and Reading all the way to Alt Park and link up with the Murray Trail. Next slide. Wasson Way wasn't able to join us today, but here's a shot of the construction along Wasson Road. This started last year and finished last year, all thanks to some really great leadership from the city and Mayor Cranley to push this project forward and make it happen quickly. Next slide. There was the first mural has gone in along the trail. This is Artworks' largest mural that they've ever done on the Duke Energy Building. Next slide kind of shows you the scale of it. The folks in the picture before were a bunch of youth apprentices from the neighborhood. So it's really cool that Artworks is engaging the community to help make this space a more engaging and beautiful public space. Next slide. And then Wasson Way has planted over 120 trees on the trail. So they've got funding from Menetrey and Cincinnati Parks, trying to do more than just asphalt and make it a beautiful place. Next slide. The ribbon cutting for the trail was in November, so record-breaking time. We were really impressed that the city was able to get that done so quickly. Next slide. So the next big connection that is coming this year, if you look on the left side of that map, phase 4 and phase 5, those 2 pieces are going to be constructed through Alt Park and link up down to Red Bank Road where the Murray Trail starts. And the Murray path extends along Walmart there, along Red Bank Road, and the village of Marymount, that red line there where it says planned Murray Path extension, that is going to start construction this spring. And Joe Stelzer and the village of Marymount have been working on this for a number of years. They've got a Clean Ohio grant that's going to come online this year, and they've raised over $150,000 in the community to extend the trail from Settle Street to Plainville Road. Another big exciting development on this is that the gap between where the Columbia connector is down there, what Becky was just talking about, and Marymount, ODOT is going to be studying this connection this year to come up with a cost estimate and a final alignment. And it's possible that a portion of that through the village will end up being on road and designated for bikes, but some really nice low traffic streets that will feel comfortable. Next slide. So here I had another slide that Becky already talked about. This is the Columbia connector behind 50 West. Next slide, please. There was a ribbon cutting for that in the fall, and it's just great to have Great Parks as a partner along with the city on all these trail projects for the Crown. Next slide. And then here's a glimpse of the medians in Marymount. This is standing at Settle Street looking east. The trail will fill in this, what was formerly a trolley route, now a median with utilities on it, and will make a beautiful walkable, bikeable corridor that currently doesn't have sidewalks all the way through, I don't think, and that will make it more accessible for kids to walk to school. Next slide. So then the last big trail development in the city, again, thanks to the leadership of the city of Cincinnati to get all these projects done, is connecting the Lunken Airport Loop to Anderson Township, right down by Coney and River Bend. This is about 2 miles that will be brand new trail. It's almost finished. In fact, it's supposed to be finished this spring. They're just working on moving some final utilities and then paving the remaining concrete segments that are not built yet. So when this is done, there will be a cohesive trail or bike lane all the way from Schehl Riverfront Park out to New Richmond. That's about 22 miles. So that's pretty cool. Next slide. Here's just some photos of what that looks like. This is along Waterworks property on Kellogg Avenue. Next slide. And then this is approaching Coney Island. So that's the big updates for Crown. And just want to give a special shout out and thank you to, again, Wassom Way and Ohio Riverway for partnering on this. And an extra special shout out to Women Jam Portman, who are leading our fundraising campaign to raise this private money to leverage state and federal grants and stretch our dollars farther and get some more trails built so we can build the Crown for the Queen City. That's all I've got.
Awesome. Thank you, Wade. And thank you everyone so much, Rachel, for running the slides. When I started in 2013 or so, it's hard to imagine how far we've come. And Bob said it best, we're moving from vision to construction, and there's nothing better than that in trail work. Wade, before we turn to our next segment here, do we have time for some of the questions that have come in the chat, or would you like to address those later?
We can definitely do questions right now. I've seen a lot of people answer questions on the fly, but we can either do them like via chat or people unmute and ask a question, maybe 5 or 10 minutes for that.
I'll start just directed to you or Rachel, Wade. One from John Seymour here, and maybe this is more of an update question, but commenting on how I assume Crown relates to the Ohio River and Great Miami River water trails.
The water trail section, interesting. I don't know that I have a great answer to that off the top of my head, but I think
Brewster could take it.
Yeah, maybe Brewster, you here? You want to chime in on that with the Ohio River Recreation Trail?
Well, thank you, folks. Obviously, we have land trails and then we have water trails, and what's exciting is the idea of combining the two so that people can paddle. And as Chris Carr was saying with the Mill Creek Trail, being able to shuttle yourself back to where you put your canoe or kayak in by bike. So you can have self-supported paddling and cycling trips without depending upon somebody else driving you or having your wife pick you up or whatever, which is often an issue in my family. So there's a real effort to build the Ohio River Trail from Portsmouth to Louisville, 274 miles, connecting as well the water trails for the tributaries from the Licking, the Little Miami, the Great Miami, the Mill Creek, and of course the Whitewater ultimately. But so that we can really have a network of recreational opportunities that allow people to paddle and bike at the same time. So I think it's a great opportunity to build quality of life that complements the work of Tri-State Trails.
Thanks, Brewster. We'd love to have you back at another quarterly meeting to give us a full presentation on the Ohio River Recreation Trail.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Wade, I'm seeing ask for an update on the Oasis Trail.
So with the Oasis Trail, I don't think we have a whole lot of information we're able to share publicly yet, but the city is negotiating still with Genesee and Wyoming, the company that operates a freight line along the Oasis rail corridor that's owned by SORTA. So we are hopeful that the city is making some really good progress with Genesee and Wyoming, and we're hoping that we're going to have a breakthrough in the near future and be able to pursue construction funding. But that's about all I can share at this point.
Thanks, Wade. One about lighting on Wasson Way, wondering if there will be solar lighting on Wasson Way.
Right now, the plan is just to get the asphalt down so people can start using it, but it is a high priority for us to follow up once the trail is built and get lighting installed. That's one of the biggest requests we've heard from the Avondale community and the Evanston community, that this goes through a very urban area, wanted to be able to use it 24/7 and feel safe doing so. So that's something that is definitely in the works. We don't have a timeline for it yet, but we're hoping to resolve that or get working on it in the next year or two.
Great. So maybe if we have one or two more questions out there, feel free to unmute yourself and chime in. We'll leave a little bit of space for that.
Hello, hi, this is Jennifer. Hello, everyone. This is Jennifer from Avondale. I want a quick question. Hello, Tanner. I love everybody's great idea, but I was thinking about, as you started off saying, Tanner, making it more equitable for everyone. How can we make it more equitable for people with disabilities? Because some people with families going to have wheelchairs and stuff like that. I just want to ask that question.
Thanks, Jen. I just want to personally thank you, Jennifer, and I'll kick it to Wade, but I know something that's strong for him and the organization is this 8 to 80 idea pretty much, and all levels of ability, which we talk about a lot, but Wade, you'll be able to answer better.
Yeah, our goal for all the trails is that they will be multi-use for bikes and pedestrians, a minimum of 10 feet wide. We're really striving for 12 to 14 feet because we know they're going to get heavily used. And the funding that comes from the federal government to build these trails requires that the trails be ADA accessible, the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that means that it controls the grade of the trail. So there are some exceptions if you have a really challenging topography, but for the most part, the maximum grade on the trails is 5%. And that is the standard that allows folks who are in a mobility device or a wheelchair to use it. And there's always curb ramps getting you from the trail to the road. I think with the multi use natural surface trails like we were talking about in Mount Airy, that's a little bit different story, but Doug and Jason might be able to speak to that about what they're working on to make it accessible for some innovative mobility devices for people to get out. But overall, we definitely want to make sure that all of our trails are ADA accessible so that folks who do have disabilities can enjoy them as well. Jason or Doug, are you still there? Would you want to comment on, or maybe Liv too? I see Liv here from Cora to talk about the natural surface side of things.
Yes, I'm actually in the car driving. This is Liv, and yes, that mile loop that will be beginner friendly, that will go around the skills park, will also be adaptive cycling user friendly too. So we hope to get that program going.
Thanks. And thanks, Jennifer, for a great question.
Yeah, I have one more other question. I've been knowing you, Wade, for quite some while, and I suffer with PTSD. Thank God for the trails and thank God for outdoors. I know that the trail plays a very important role with people with mental health and suffering from, depression or anything like that. Has there been any study? Will there be any study, or will that be a topic to bring up to make people use it more, and has it for people who's dealing with disability? Because I was thinking about that in Avondale.
Yeah, that's a great question. Anecdotally, I think I've seen all kinds of stories over the past year about how the trails and the outdoors and parks have been a place of refuge for people during the pandemic. And I think about how important those spaces are for folks who maybe don't have a backyard or don't have a park right next to them. So I don't have a great answer about studies off the top of my head. I mean, I think that's something that we could look into and maybe send you some resources on. But I know that anecdotally, folks are definitely turning to the trails, and we have been trying to message around that over the past year about how the trails can be that place for you to get outside and clear your head. But I can totally relate. The past year has been so challenging for so many people, and I know for me personally and my family, just to feel a little less cooped up, we've been going out to the parks and to the trails weekly basis at minimum.
Miss Jennifer, not that I'm Wade's boss or anything now technically, but not that I can quote this, but the data's there, the information's there. What I think we really want to we know this, we know the benefits. Let's move to action. And some of the things we're doing, whether it's groundwork, Red Bike, Tri-State Trails, is implementing some of these programs to introduce the trails to communities in ways that have benefits to them. And there's nothing higher than mental health. So for example, in Lower Price Hill, we're having youth jump on Red Bike soon and explore their new trail. And we're hoping that not only is just an introduction, but a way to equitably introduce these assets, these infrastructures, the benefits they have to you, your community, to your mental, physical health, et cetera. So we're all with you. And I just want to say, I think I'm more on the action, proactive trajectory than looking into it even more, because we believe you and people like you.
Hey, Wade, this is Rachel Comte. I have, just from my work, a lot of studies that I could give you links to about the benefits of green space and physical and mental health. So if you want that, I have those ready to go.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And if you have them readily accessible, you could even drop them in the chat or send them to us in an email. And we've done a blog post about clearing your head on the trails recently. We could add that content into there.
Okay.
Thanks. But
I think for time's sake, we better wrap it up and move to the last phase here, Wade, and that is you to take it away. Thank you all so much again, and to all the presenters. The progress is kind of overwhelming and emotional for me even. So thank you all so much, and let's keep the conversation and the progress going.
Thanks, Tanner. I've just got one more quick update to share with you all about a project that we're working on this spring that we'd love to have your input on. Rachel, if you could advance to the next slide, please. So there's Tanner again. Sorry, Tanner, we put you in all our shots. You're such a great model for urban biking. The project that we're working on this spring, we're calling a low stress bike map. And the goal for this is to really build on the past bike maps that have been published for Cincinnati and create a new map that allows us to encourage people to get out on their bike and feel safe doing it, even if we don't have trails or bike lanes all over the place. So next slide, please. The most recent bike map that I am aware of for Cincinnati was 2014, the Cincinnati bike map there on the left. And it's actually behind me. It's a beautiful map with so much information. It's almost overwhelming. But this hasn't been updated since 2014. And over the past year and really before that, we always get inquiries about where is a good place for me to ride my bike or get out on the trails. And we have an online interactive trail finder map. If you go to tristatetrails.org/explore. That is the resource that we've been pointing to for years. But the challenge with that is that we don't have the great connectivity in our trail and bikeway network yet that we really want to encourage people to go out and use their bike as a part of their daily lifestyle. So what we're going to do is model this project off of something that Denver did. They created a low stress bike map. And the goal was to engage bicyclists who are already riding in the community and ask them what are their favorite routes that they feel comfortable using, that they would feel comfortable sharing with a beginner. So if you go to the next slide, the goal here is really to put together a map with a network of comfortable streets for riding that connects to key destinations like downtown, other employment centers, libraries, grocery stores. And it's also a tool to educate riders about the laws and safe riding habits for the road. So that this could be a one-stop tool to hand out to folks to get them out on a bike feeling comfortable with the roads that we have today. And then as we continue to build out the connectivity in our trail network, obviously that will get even better. But we just want to encourage people to make the choice to ride a bike, whether it's for an errand to the grocery store once a week or every day on their daily commute. So I have a survey that I'm going to post in the chat here. We've started to map out routes in Northern Kentucky, and we're going to be embarking on an effort to do that in the neighborhoods of Cincinnati. We're going to be mapping out the urban core primarily, and this will become an interactive and a printed map. But we'd love to really get your feedback about how you would use it. What factors are most important to you to make that choice to bike for transportation, and what type of educational materials you might want to help you feel safe making that choice. So go ahead and click that link. We'll send it out after the fact too. It shouldn't take more than 5 minutes or so to complete, and would love to have your feedback. There will also be an opportunity to get in on the planning efforts. If you're in Northern Kentucky or Cincinnati and you ride all the time and you have your favorite routes that you choose to bypass a busy street or a dangerous intersection, we want your input. So send us an email. You can send it to me or Rachel, and we will be sure to loop you in when we start those conversations in the community to get input from bike riders. And that is all I have. If you go to the next slide, thank you, Rachel, for working the slides behind the scene. Thank you, Bob, for being our chair for the past 2 years. Thank you, Tanner, for coming on board with us and helping us realize this vision of a more equitable trail network. And thank you to you all for spending an hour and a half with us this morning to learn more about the trail projects. I hope you are as excited as I am. There's so much really great stuff happening. And the more you all are involved in telling your elected officials and community leaders that this is important, the more we can get done together. So that's all I have for today. Just want to say thanks again for coming, and enjoy your Friday afternoon and your weekend ahead.